Oh my god. Anyway, we're in game now.
Yep. It's a best of 9 between these two games, between these two teams, NewRoSoft and mYinsanity. Again, there's no in-game score because it's the best of 1 between these two players. Score currently, though, 3-2 in the favor of NewRoSoft over mYinsanity. But they brought out one of the big guns. However, spawning the lower left, currently on top of the, I guess, this miniature king of the hill, from NewRoSoft, the blue Terran player Krass.
And in the bottom left spawn location, playing for... Oh, sorry, that's what you already introduced. In the bottom right spawn location, playing for mYinsanity, we've got our red Protoss player, Stardust.
So, of course, there's a small complication. There was Stardust coming out that forced my good buddy Penguin here to have to step in for a match or two. But if we're going to be real, and I'm just going to ask you this outright, like, I think we both kind of saw this, like, you probably intended to go in there as filler at best. Like, do you really think you were going to go in there and win? Because, again, that was so crazy.
Like, I'm not actually, like, if I was at my best form, I, like, figure that I would have a chance against Night End, but I don't think I'm at my best form right now, because I haven't been, like, I had, like, a month and a half of no playing at all, because I was in England and just traveling everywhere. And I've only been playing again for like a week, but I've been doing like 10 hours a day, so I guess it's paying off.
Yeah, well, we'll see how Krass can do versus Stardust. Stardust has had, I don't know, there was once upon a time where I think his TVP was a little bit, I don't know, not the best outside of all-ins, but he's really improved. And I mean, I love that he's gone out of his way for tournaments to specifically not use any cheese and then tweet like, see, I can still win without cheese, cheese dust, LOL king and stuff. I love I love the way he's trying to shape his play stylings.
Yeah, and it's really important that it's important for his mentality as well to do that, because I know like after DreamHack, after DreamHack and like after DreamHack Valencia and Aces Rog Summer, like all of those 3 tournaments where he got like he won top 4, top 8, like all in quick succession, basically all with cheese builds. Like he started to get a little bit depressed, not like hardcore depressed, that's not the right word to use, but like he started to get a little bit sad that like everybody only thought he was good for cheesing, so. Then he spent like 6 months just like doing nothing but macro, and it kind of didn't work very well for him because he like lost a whole bunch for like 2 or 3 months, but his macro got a lot better because he was practicing it, and now he's definitely capable of doing both. And
it's gonna be scary too, because Stardust, of course, being best friends with Josh, and constantly I feel getting like admins of tournaments hate mYinsanity, because like we see Stardust versus Joshi a lot. And he's definitely had some time playing against the best. Krass is pretty darn good, though. I don't know if I necessarily call him the next Joshi by any means, but I've seen Krass pull out some crazy wins out of unwinnable situations.
And Krass is another one of those players that just is like very, very solid on the macro front as well. He does throw in cheeses every now and then and aggressive plays, but for the most part, he's a fairly macro-based player.
Oh, this poor probe. Goodbye, buddy. Here comes the Reaper. The Grim Reaper.
Use the line of sight blockers, use them. Nah.
First blood.
Actually, that
anyway, Stardust opting for a Twilight Council here, so looking like we could see a blink all in out of him.
God damn
After
it.
all of our talk about how he's good at macro now.
You know what? Like, I could really make some bad jokes about the cheese stuff, but the reality is Blink Stalkers are so strong right now. To be honest, to an extent, it's almost foolish not to use them on some maps. Frost is definitely a good map for it. Yansu, which is no longer in the pool, was a really abusive map for it. I mean, there's a lot of really good situations to use Blink, and unfortunately, this is going to get scouted. But because Stardust is doing this off of one base, I think he's kind of forced to stick to it. You can't really... I don't know, you can't really cancel something you're this dedicated to.
You can't really transition out of it too much. He can opt to like 3-gate blink, I guess, instead of 4-gate blink maybe, but either way, he's very all in here, and Krass is basically completely knowledgeable about what's coming his way. He's got his 3rd racks coming on down. He's already getting a bunker on the high ground here, and we may actually see him just try to defend his main and lift up his natural once that Oracle command is done.
You know, one of the unfortunate things for Terran players as well, I've seen really good players hold off Blink all-ins. Hart probably does it better than most that I've seen. And a lot of people focus on the bunkers of the cliff. A lot of people focus on, you know, playing super defensive against it. But one of my favorite techniques that I've seen is, you know, if you go for these 3 racks, had he had done this before gas, he would have had a lot of Marines he could have pushed with. And the idea is if you pick off even 3 or 4 Stalkers at your opponent's main base while he's on one base, that really cuts out the power of the Blink. Because Stalkers, they have to snowball to be really effective. Blink in and of itself is not that good. 5 Stalkers, not that scary, but it's the fact that you can't kill 13 of them that makes it so impossible to hold.
And they have really good damage output as well, and that's, like, I mean, Stalkers have a relatively high DPS. They take a lot of damage on the Marines, though, obviously, because, like, Stalker's health is not super duper high. Like, it's not bad. They've got a good 80 health. But it's really the retention that becomes the power of them with that blink, and you can retain them a lot easier the more there are, because you can just blink them behind more of them. It's harder to focus them. It's easier to just have the AI screw up with the Terran player, which is why, as you said, it just snowballs very, very easily.
So one really important thing that's just happened here while you were talking was Krass did pull back to the main. And he was only able to afford to do this because he saw that Stardust is still on one base. If Stardust had that natural down, there's a lot bigger priority for Krass to hold his own natural. But unfortunately, there is no bunker down in this scenario, and that Stimpack needs to finish. It's very important he doesn't let Stardust snipe that. So the fight does begin, and a couple Stalkers getting damaged, but they blink away immediately.
Yeah, it looks like one did go down, I think. But you mentioned that Stim. The Stim's in a really good position here. It's on like the perfect racks. The concussive shells is on a racks. It's a little bit open here, but the Stim is on a really good one. He's already got SCVs pre-pulled to be able to prevent any kind of focus down on that. Those can move over to the bunker as well if he feels like he needs to. Stardust gonna try to poke up the ramp here, do a little bit more damage while blinking on back, and doesn't kill anything, but gets some more damage done. This Dark Shrine coming down behind us.
Kind of dirty, but what I really like out of Krass while this has been going on is he kept that SCV from letting Stardust take a natural. Like, the idea for Stardust at this point, like, he realizes he's contained his opponent. He already burned that time warp. He can no longer win with blink, and he knows this. So the idea is to keep his opponent stuck within his main as long as humanly possible.
Well, I think another big thing to note here is because Krass had his SCVs pre-pulled for such a long time, a lot of the time, like, because you pre-pull your SCVs, you want to have as much mining as possible. You drop a lot of mules, and I think Stardust is kind of hoping that he would have them pre-pulled a little bit longer to deny more mining, because then there's a higher chance that Krass just continues dropping down the mules, which does mean that, of course, there's less energy for scans. He may be actually keeping, like, there's enough energy on both CCs now to actually scan it. He's not dropping any mules, just a little bit rough for Stardust.
Well, beyond this, too, I'm a little surprised Stardust never invested in a sentry in the front lines to just guarantee that Krass never leaves his main. But,
yeah,
okay,
I feel like that could be a worthwhile investment here. And here we do have the DT walking on. Immediately spotted, immediately scanned. Down it goes. One volley of shots is all that takes. And as you mentioned, Stardust's Nexus is going to complete.
Right, and I think what's really key here is we have that Turk come down immediately. Upon scanning that, like, you want to be able to save as many scans as possible. You don't want to have to scan every 3 seconds for another DT. He will do it again, but that turret coming up is going to be really nice.
It's really kind of necessary as well, because he only has the 2 CCs. He's not on, like, 3 CC or anything. So the energy, as you said, is very important to have, and also there's just not enough energy right now, for instance. So if there had been another Dark Templar and no turret, things could get damaged. But, I mean, Krass, while he's not expanded yet, I still feel like Krass is in a better position here. He's got his own medevacs that'll start production as soon as his starport lands. He's definitely up. He's up in economy. I feel like as soon as this guy lands, he'll be up in economy because he can saturate better.
I might agree with you, Penguin, if we had +1 weapons on the way or at least finished, but Stardust is already chronoing out that armor. It's nearly completion, and as a Terran player, without medevac still, without +1, he doesn't really have the capability to take on charge lots back at home once it comes down to it, but catches a stock in the middle of the map, nice start to this, starts to secure his own natural, and I don't know, Stardust is not a player who's going to get caught off guard by a lot of this. What's kind of funny, though, is this is terrible placement for gateways to lock this in. One drop could actually pick off all of these without Zealots being able to deal with it. It's typically Zealots that are warped in to defend, not Stalkers. So I think like a Marauder drop could be really effective at picking off tech, but
it definitely could, but at the same time, I don't think he can do that just yet. I think he has to just play a little more defensive, because you never know. If, like, he hasn't really scouted. If Stardust had, like, expanded, added on, like, 5 gateways and gone for, like, some, like, crazy 8-gate blink kind of play, then all of a sudden he's going to die if he like, leaves too many of his units.
I kind of like what Krass is doing too. A lot of times, you know, you've seen it, I've seen it. They overstim their army. There's one medevac in play, but he's very much intentionally only stimming 1 or 2 Marauders at a time to go for those concussive blasts to try and catch some of these stalkers. 1 HP hype on that Marauder. And of course, we see a little bit of spikes coming out of Stardust, guys. I do want to remind you all, we're currently playing the North American server, even though he is in Korea. It's not perfect latency, but it does work.
Yeah, and I mean, it's fairly even anyway. Krass, of course, will have minor latency as well. And behind this, we do have +2, about halfway done. It's going to be nowhere near done in time for this engagement. Stardust can try to force field this ramp, though, and keep this army at bay. With the Blink Stalkers there, it's not really like Krass can just lift up medevacs and try to go over the force fields or anything. They will be basically suicidal if they do that. Templar Archives finishing up here.
The thing is, though, the Stalkers have to blink forward to grab the medevacs. That does put them in range of the Marauders, so the force fields become a little less effective. It's really delicate how both players handle this engagement, but with the Mothership Core 200 energy, the guaranteed thing is there's not going to be a photon overcharge while this happens, so even if Krass was fighting within the natural instead of out here behind the force field, Stardust would be okay.
That engagement went really well for Stardust, that has to be said. Like, force fields were good, medevac micro was decent on the second medevac, but the first medevac did go down, luckily before it picked anything up.
Okay, drop
and behind this, oh, there is a drop in the main, as you said. We have overcharge going down on the natural. Nothing in the main yet, though. There we go.
All right, but that's for krass.
This is really rough, actually.
He picks off enough probes to make this worthwhile on the sacrifice and burns 2 overcharges. So now this defense isn't looking as solid for Stardust, because let's not forget there's still Medivacs healing this army. There's still a pretty big army, but it's worth noting Stardust actually, whoa, this is a nice DT, but this is still a turret up. He's going for that old school build. We got charge lots with armor and storms instead of Colossus. You don't really see this anymore.
And we also have +2 already done. So like if krass had decided to continue trying to push that once the overcharges were gone, Stardust successfully bought enough time for +2 to finish, for a couple Archons to be warped in, and now for Storm to finish up as well. +1 attack is going to come in behind this. Ghost Academy already getting started, so krass knows exactly what he needs to do here. And the question is going to be, does Stardust go for a kind of 2-base all-in here, or does he opt to try to expand?
Well, I think, and I don't know, I like your thoughts on it. Of course, this is a scumbaggy Zerg player, but the Ghosts this early, it's weird. There's a small dynamic where like Ghosts, everyone thinks like EMP is an auto win, and in some scenarios it is. But a lot of the times people forget like, oh, actually, drop going off on the snap and gonna get cleaned up. If you EMP the Templar for all their storms, they're going to turn into Archons, and then all of a sudden you need another EMP again, but you don't have it because you just burned all your energy on those first EMPs. So this could go really well for Stardust, even if he does take severe Ghost quote-unquote damage to the EMPs, but he's going to rely so heavily on these storms. And Stardust is not a player to typically clump his army. Like, he's that guy who segments 2 Templar out to the side, puts them in the middle of the map to go for feedbacks, to go for storms.
Yeah, but that being said, right now, these Templar are a little bit clumped. He's got to be careful. He's got to not get too complacent and assume that there's not going to be Ghosts on the field here.
That's
Looks like we have a drop coming into the main. 3 Marauders and a Marine. Zealots are already there to greet them, though, so this shouldn't do too much damage. Marine goes down.
There's a lot of surface area he could abuse, like behind the mineral lines, squeezed between these gateways. I mean, we just see him kind of blatantly drop at the mineral line, which is fine, but he shouldn't take any damage from these Zealots as long as he puts the drops in better locations. There we go, recognizing that there's some areas to use. But Stardust at the front door, 1 Marauder coming out, bunkers and a barracks. This is going to be a beefy wall for sure, but decent
we've
EMP.
already seen some beefy walls out of this guy today. Oh, the storm! Oh god, that storm was brutal.
I don't really think so. It got a couple Marines that chased the rest back, but it cost him about 4 Templars worth of energy through that EMP. That storm was pretty tasty, though.
Oh man. This is looking a little rough here for krass. He got some good EMPs. The problem is he didn't actually kill the stuff, so the shields are going to start regenerating now.
And the energy ticks as well.
The drop coming back into the natural here, gonna get cleaned up once again.
So,
3 Templars still sitting at home. It looks like Stardust is going to take a 3rd.
Right, and here's the problem with this drop. When you go for Marauder drops as a Terran, it's specifically designed more to pick off buildings, to pick off specific units like Templar that can't run away from concussive shells. It's not meant to really be probe killing. That's what you do Marines for. So krass has been kind of getting not a lot done awkwardly with these Marauders. It's a stalker, I guess, at the end. But the probe count still looking strong. Only 21 workers killed so far this game. And let's not forget, if Stardust does take that 3rd, that's 3 Chronos to make up the probe losses. It's not a problem.
Yeah, now...
Oh no, Penguin. No level 2 upgrades are on the way for krass.
Oh, really? Oh, is he going to SCV pull?
I don't know if he's going to SCV pull, but he
should.
Stardust is going to have level 3 armor.
No. There's an armory and a 2nd engineering bay on the way, so he's not going to SCV pull.
Right. It's not about the SCV pull, but it's more about the fact that he's going to be coming with +1 weapons versus Stardust Zealots that are going to have level 3 armor. He's not going to be able to touch that army, especially if there's a Guardian Shield on top of it.
Yeah, the question is how many Zealots actually are there? There's not that many. Actually, I lied. There's 16. There's a couple on the other side of the map here as well. DT going to deny that expansion for now. EMP going down, missing the DT, so does not reveal it.
Yeah, a lot of people forget too. EMP will reveal units that are stealth. It's a weird thing, but you see Burrowed Infestors revealed out of nowhere by accident. Sometimes DTs on purpose. But for krass, has he recognized there's pylons down here? I wonder, because I mean, this is gonna be a big problem as the game persists on. Like that's constant Zealot threats is what that is.
Yeah, and DT threats as well. Stardust does keep warping in a couple of those. That DT up to the west is going to continue to come back in, pick off the Marine, and then go presumably for the SCB building that command center. Behind this, overall, Stardust has solidified himself into a decent position, but he's still sitting on only 42 workers, which is a bit of a problem here because his income is good, but he's still in a position where his income is significantly lower than his opponent. He's already got a strong army, and that's what he's relying on to carry him. That and his upgrades.
These Zealots are going to be somewhat untouchable. Armor's completing here in a second, and you're right. Like, the big thing about that economy is it's the difference of warping in all 7 Zealots from 7 gateways versus 4. Like, he's not going to be able to afford to fully utilize his gateways just yet, especially if he tries to saturate this Nexus, but this is going to be so not fun for krass to deal with. His ghost count's really strong, and it's really high. Storm kind of whiffs pretty hard there, but the Zealots are more of a threat to this army than anything else. EMP's coming down, blanketing everything. Snipes going off the top of the Templar. But the Zealots...
Yeah, there's no more storms left, and the Zealots are gonna start trading away a little bit at that mineral line, but they do get picked off here.
Well, the main
Stardust
as well.
coming forward though with a lot more Templar with full energy. He's got to make sure he doesn't clump those though. There we go. The split's coming out. EMP's
but this
not going to be as good, but Snipes could still be.
Right, but the Zealots in the main have still yet to be cleaned up. They just walked in and wrecked everything because nothing coming out of production can deal with this. Level 3 armor is insane for Protoss versus Terran.
Yeah, Krass is looking a bit in trouble as far as his main army goes. He's done pretty well, or his main base goes rather. He's done pretty well so far with the running out of ghost energy, and there's still a couple of storms here. Nope, not anymore. Actually, no, there's still one Templar in there with enough energy for one storm, and one up to the north as well. That's a good storm, but it is also the last one.
Unfortunately, yeah, this is what I was talking about though. Like, he's focusing so heavily on the army for Krass. We kind of joked about the SCV pull earlier, but he might as well at this point, because if he doesn't clean up these Zealots right now, if he doesn't turn around, he's not going to. He's going to lose all his production. He's going to lose any chance to get back in this game. And simply put, Marines coming out one at a time aren't going to be able to handle this. SCVs are pulled into the Zealots. That's a mistake. Should have, would have been on the front lines. But the army from Krass is looking really strong, and a good EMP or two, if he can get the energy for it, will kill all of these Archons, and that's primarily what this army is. There are no storms available. Krass, however, is just sitting here eating the damages that a stutter step, and these medevacs are dry, and Stardust is about to close this game out. GG.
That was a pretty close one. Stardust looked in a pretty bad spot after the blink all in didn't kill off Krass, but overall able to bring it back. He got his expansion down, and I think the biggest thing in that game was the upgrade advantage that he was able to solidify for himself.